Hello, podcasters, and welcome to Sexplosion. My name is Caroline Chenier, and I'm your coach on all things intimacy, relationship, sex, and superconsciousness. This is my podcast teaching you about how to sexually liberate yourself to be confident, spicy, and fun around intimacy and sex, along with learning about how to build a great foundation for strong, long lasting, and passionate relationships. It is unfiltered, uncensored, and very unexpected. Today's topic is all about sex and menopause. My beautiful guest, Pat Duckworth, and I will be discussing what happens sexually before and after menopause and what to do to fix a low sex drive. So, Pat is a woman's wellness and workplace menopause strategist. Pat is also a best-selling author, an international speaker, and specialist in the area of wellness and menopause. She enjoyed a 30-year career in British civil service, becoming a director in a major department. She's written 5 books on the subject of women's health at midlife. And in 2021, her book, Menopause, Mind the Gap, was given a 9 out of 10 rating by Get Abstract. And Pat has won many awards and worked with many private and public organizations. So, Pat, a very warm and sexy welcome to Sexplosion.
Sexy hello back to you.
So, Pat, let's start with the bodily facts on how menopause affects a woman's sex life.
This is such a huge subject. I've been thinking about it today. Where do we start this story? And everything I say is general because every woman's experience of menopause is individual to them. Although there's some generalities, I know that some women will be going, well, that didn't happen to me. But think about it. The changes you're undergoing at menopause are like the opposite end to what happened to you when you went through puberty. So just as some girls go through puberty with like one spot and then they're done, other girls like for years are having mood swings and
Hot
acne
flushes.
and everything. It's the same at menopause. Some women will go through it earlier than others. Some will have worse symptoms than others. So everything I say is general. So don't shout at the podcast. So generally, when we get to our mid-20s, our reproductive hormones, estrogen and progesterone, start to reduce. So as early as your mid-20s, you don't really start experiencing it until your late 30s, early 40s. But estrogen is responsible or has a role in over 200 functions in the body.
Wow.
I don't know how men don't experience this the same way. But anyway, so we have 4 types of estrogen, and the estrogen levels are reducing as we start to approach our late 40s and early 50s. And because estrogen affects so many processes in the body, that's why you can get so many different symptoms. So how it can affect you physically and can affect your libido, well, firstly, you may not be sleeping as well as you used to. Sleep is often one of the first victims of being in perimenopause, which is the years leading up to menopause. So you might not be sleeping as well. And if you're tired, you're not going to fancy it as much as you used to. It can cause you to feel more anxious because the effect it has on your adrenal glands. Again, anxiety is not a great thing for foreplay. It can affect your confidence in yourself, your confidence in your body. And then really physically, the reduction in estrogen affects your skin. So that's not just the skin on your face, your hands, your arms, it affects the skin of the vagina. And the vagina can become much more fragile. It becomes drier, the skin becomes thinner, it's much less juicy than it used to be. So that can have a real effect on your enjoyment of sex.
It's just not fair, is it?
Well,
Oh my God.
men can go through that thing of having, harder to sustain erections. So,
True.
it's not all one-sided. It's just that, you might just be getting to a stage where the kids are leaving home and you're really thinking, wow, we're going to have so much more time for sex and enjoying ourselves. And suddenly your vagina is going, I don't think so.
Oh, it's so sad.
It is so sad. And so what I really want to say is that having a lower libido isn't necessarily like this is the end, because there just seems to be this mindset around once you get to menopause, you're not going to want sex anymore. It's not going to be comfortable. You're shutting up shop. It's over. And that's just not the case. So I'm kind of buying into what you do, Caroline, because I think this is so important for women. And a recent report said that women's sexual health is very important for their emotional and mental health.
God, it is. And you know what? Just before coming is I'm actually doing this in my car today because I'm actually out. I actually sing. I'm singing. Oh God, I'm singing Queen songs. It's weird because my husband's has been in a choir for 20 years. He's like, choir, and he sings requiems and stuff like that. And he goes, Caroline, would you know, once I moved to Paris, he said, would you like to join? And I said, well, I don't want to sing requiems. I prefer singing, you know, pop songs in the car. He goes, oh, well, you know, we're doing Queen next year in another choir. Would you like to come? Yeah. Okay, that's great. So I've been doing that. So today is a rehearsal for all the arm actions and the dancing. So I've actually come out in my car. And the point of me telling you all that is because just before coming out, I'm having to tell people, well, I'm leaving. And they're going, so, and I said, well, I've got to do a podcast in my car. What's the podcast about? So here in France, it's all very Catholic, you see. And all the women I spoke to, which are on my age, I said, well, it's all about sex. And I'm immediately they're going to start thinking really dirty stuff. And I'm like, no, this is about, you know, sexually liberating yourself. And today is all about menopause. So actually it's relevant to all these women, right? Yeah. And they're going, oh, like that because clearly they do. She said it's still really taboo here. And I'm like, wow, it's so bad that women do not speak about anything sexual. Even when I was in my sexual peak, you know, when I was going crazy, like I mentioned before on your radio show, like when I was going mad and I couldn't get off this flipping sex train, it was just like taking over my life. It's the same. People don't talk about it. Yeah. There are some younger women that do, you know, there's some younger women that it's becoming a bit, and even men are talking a bit about it more now, but you're absolutely right. And I'm so glad that you do this work because, again, you're a workplace strategist. So, again, you know, what women don't understand, well, when I say women, I'm talking about managers as well, whether they're men or women. I mean, women, okay, they might be getting the symptoms. They don't even know what's going on with themselves either. No. You know, with the memory, maybe hair loss, the joints, putting on weight. And like you said about the skin. And they don't realize even the mood swings and the hot flashes. They don't realize what's going on to be able to integrate that into the workplace. And especially men, the poor old men have got absolutely no frigging idea what's going on with their wives. Why do they not want to do it anymore? And of course, the wife is making a load of excuses as to why they don't know why they don't want to do it. They just don't feel like it. And it's a real shame because actually this can ruin a lot of relationships, because I know a lot of women my age where of course the men still want to do it, and they, you know, the men think, well, why don't they fancy me anymore? What's going on? And the women don't, apart from not realizing, they're not communicating, are they, Pat?
Well, they don't understand themselves, because women don't understand what's going on. And for some reason, they won't like look it up and find out. I mean, you know, I talk about it very openly. And because I think this is such an important part of it, and it's, you know, women will ask me questions on podcasts, on workshops. They'll ask me about the hot flushes, the sleep, the anxiety. But it's going to be a brave woman who says to me, so what's going on for me sexually? And I've actually done workshops for a group of women where I've gone through it and explained it, and where they felt safe enough to say, okay, so what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? You know, because we need to talk about it really openly. And at the moment, I've written 5 non-fiction books about menopause, but I'm just writing a novel, because I think if I can write a novel that's funny and that women engage with, they're going to learn while they're reading the novel. And so I've got my main character, and I feel sorry for this character because I'm giving her all the worst stuff.
That's really good, though, because every woman that's going to read that book will identify with something, won't they? Because like you said at the beginning, every woman's different. So yeah, that's really good. And you know what? That is such a good way, because women aren't going to go and look it up, are they? So
No.
you're actually tapping in to tons of women that wouldn't normally go and look up what's wrong with them. Oh, it's a fantastic idea, Pat.
Yeah, so this poor woman, her husband, she still fancies her husband, but every time they try and have sex, it's like not as good as it was, and then it's really
Hurts.
painful. And so
Yeah.
she's going off to the doctor and she doesn't want to talk to her friends about it, you know. And it's everything that women experience. And I'm just trying to explain it through this character that I'm giving. I even sent her on holiday with her husband, and they've had very like not good sex, and then the next day I give her an unexpected period as well. I thought, I feel so
Oh,
sorry for this woman. I've
yeah.
sent her on holiday and now I've given her a period.
I think that's amazing. So are you actually addressing the men in this as well, in this fiction book?
um it's more about the women, but there are, you know, all of the women have partners. One has a female partner, because can you imagine going
Right.
through all the turmoil of this at the same time as your female partner's going
God,
through it as
yeah.
well?
Do you know, I never
um
even thought about that.
Absolutely, but I've given each of them, one of them is in a brand new relationship, so she doesn't want to talk about it at all because she's having a lot of fun and she doesn't want anything to happen to it. And then another character is going through an early hysterectomy. I am throwing the kitchen sink at these women.
Bloody hell. Absolutely incredible. And so we've mentioned as some things. Are there, I mean, there are other things like joint pain, okay?
Yeah,
So yeah, so what, in your opinion, what causes the joint pain? Is it the estrogen again?
it's it's always the estrogen. It just always is, because it affects other things. Like, we think about it as affecting our reproductive system, but it's affecting how we digest food. It's affecting our nervous
Wow.
system. It's affecting our brain function. It affects how we absorb and deal with sugar, which is why sugar becomes a much bigger issue as we get to this stage of life. It
Wow.
affects our gut biome. So we really have to think holistically. It's not, there's no silver bullet. You might think, oh, if I took hormone therapy, well, yeah, that would, you know, it could help you. But that you know, if you think about it holistically, you've got to think about your diet, your exercise, your lifestyle, how you deal with your stress. It's all important to this stage of life.
Yeah, and the thing about the joints
Mm,
is, and you said, you mentioned the exercise as well, and the food, of course, because you see, what I found, like, I've always gone to the gym every day, apart from, well, even at weekends, but I do give myself a day off sometimes. At the moment, I've had an operation, so I've not done any. But COVID, we're not allowed to say that anymore on the radio. Um, right, it has really taught me a big lesson, you see, because apart from going through the menopause and apart from the food that perhaps I was eating that's bad, because I wasn't doing the exercise anymore, I was getting even more stiff. And of course,
yeah,
with the effect of the menopause too, it actually got to the point where I couldn't actually open my legs properly.
yeah,
And so, not only that, like, I'm going to talk, doggy here, right? You're having to bend your legs and like be, whatever position you do, you have to bend your legs. And I'm more like a one that's like got its bottom right up in the air and my hands are down, right? So my legs are really bent. Well, I tell you what, afterwards, I can't even straighten up afterwards.
yeah,
And it really does affect the everything. It's not just the insides in your vagina, is it? It's all
no,
of that too.
yeah,
And the other thing, of course, and you've touched on it right at the beginning, is you don't feel, because you put on weight and your skin starts changing, your hair,
yeah,
maybe your hair, there are a lot of women that also experience hair loss,
yes,
and they feel unattractive,
yeah,
and they actually don't even want to take their clothes off, with the light on. They don't want
yeah,
their husbands to, and I have to admit, I sometimes feel that. I
yeah,
sometimes do. And my husband keeps telling me, Caroline, you're not fat. And when I look at myself in the mirror, because I've got a lot, I'm not that fat, but when you got it in your head
yes,
that you might not be as attractive. And I think many women, apart from not feeling like it, actually feel terrible in
yeah.
themselves.
Well, it's, a lot of sex goes on in our heads. our heads are responsible for like how excited we get. It's not just a physical response, it's a mental and spiritual response. You said spiritual right up front. And there's a lot going on for us that's bigger than just what's going on in our bodies at this stage of life. And I'm a hypnotherapist. That's one of the therapy types, modes that I use. And it's around changing the mindset around this. It's very hard to find positive words around menopause. We're programmed to see it as a really negative thing. Whereas if you speak to women the other side, and I am way the other side of it now, we know that we suddenly get more energy. We feel more passionate about life. We feel passionate about what we think our purpose is, and that passion comes back. So, while you're not feeling entirely well, it's hard to feel passionate, which is why we have to do all these little adjustments to diet and exercise and everything else to get our bodies feeling okay. Because the other side of it, you're going to feel great, and you are going to not care as much about anything as you did care beforehand. You're going to go, well, my hair's not looking great today. Do you know what? I don't care. I'm not looking at my hair all day long. But I think it's really important to look in the mirror through the eyes of your spirit, the thing that's like inside of you, that is the essence of you. Because I can look in the mirror and I can see all of the little creases and lines and where did that spot come from? My spirit looks through my eyes and goes, you're doing pretty good, girl. Keep going. We're here. We're doing great work. We're just carrying on. My spirit smiles at me. So we have to get into that place where we're loving ourselves enough to look after ourselves and just go, yeah, you're doing a great job.
It's those messages we put into our subconscious mind, right? Because our subconscious mind doesn't know what's real and what isn't real. It just says whatever message goes in, okay, yep, I'll action that.
Yeah.
So when we and the trouble is, it's all completely unconscious. We just mull around with these words going into our heads, these negative things going in our heads. Oh, I'm not, we don't realize how damaging that is.
Yeah.
And so, like you're saying, if they say what you're saying to say every day, if you know that Gok Kwan, when he does that look good naked, at first those women are a right mess, aren't they? A real mess. They can't even look in the mirror. It's the same kind of thing. And by the end of the episode, that woman's loving herself because she's been encouraged to say the right things. So the trouble is that we're all on our own, aren't we? We don't hear people like you and I encouraging and saying, look, this isn't the real you. The real you is actually the one inside. You're telling yourself you're with this, but actually you're not. And everybody around you doesn't see the same thing. It's what we actually, it's the damage we give ourselves that makes us feel so, but yeah, absolutely. So women have to start changing the narrative, don't they?
We do. And we have to encourage each other. It's important to have allies at menopause, and that could be women and it can be men. As women, we need to support each other. And if you see somebody who's looking good, say, you're looking good today. I saw an old lady in the car park. When I say an old lady, I'm not that young myself, but, she was really very slim. She was beautifully dressed up and she put her pearls on and she was only going to the shops. And I just had to go up to her and say, I just love the way you look. Because you don't know what effect that has on that person.
Yeah.
She was walking awkwardly. She obviously had some hip problems, but just to be told you look good makes you straighten up a bit and feel a bit better. So as women, don't pull other women down, help to raise them up. This is why what you're doing, what I'm doing is so important, because we have to get these positive messages out to women. I went to a webinar, well, not a webinar, I'm so used to saying webinar. I went to a women's meeting in London this week, and there were women from the 5 continents. They'd come just for this meeting, which was incredible. And some of them were wearing the outfits of their countries, their cultural outfits.
Wow.
Others were wearing Western clothes. There were Indian clothes, African clothes, South American.
Beautiful colours.
And I kept going up to women and saying, you look amazing. And they're like, oh, you know what women do? Oh, this old thing. But at some level, and
that would have made their day. That would have made their day, Pat.
And if somebody compliments you, don't go, oh, not this old thing. If somebody compliments you, they're giving you a gift. It's like they've wrapped something up. They've probably gone out on a bit of a limb to say something to you, accept the present of it. Go, thank you, that's really kind of you. Don't go, oh, this old thing, or oh, I got it from TK Maxx, or it was cheap.
Yeah.
No,
And
accept the present.
exactly. And I think it's something to do with the British culture that we have to pull ourselves down and say, oh, you know, like if you say, someone says to you, if you say to someone, oh, that's a nice top, oh, it's really old.
Yeah.
Or I got it from my,
Yeah.
you know, bargain corner, whatever it's called, or I got it in the you know what, isn't it funny how we're brainwashed to put down our greatness? But yeah, you know, I do the same as you. I was in where was I now? I was in oh yeah, there's this trainee at the till at the supermarket yesterday, and she had these amazing nails. I could see they were stuck on, but they were beautiful, little designs on. And I said, "You got beautiful nails." And then there's this woman at the choir who is she's in a wheelchair, but she looks absolutely amazing. I'm trying to find the time to actually go and tell her, because she's incredible. And I'm the same as you. I'll tell people in the bank, well, when they say in the bank, when there's one that's there, because they're all closing down, aren't they? Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, absolutely right. And I know that's made that person's day. And my husband's not used to it. I mean, people talk in France. They'll say good morning, that you're walking in the street and people will say hello to you. That is really different. I love that. But people don't really chit chat, and I'll just talk to everybody. And my husband's going to me, he's like looking at me as if to say, what you're just talking to anybody, do you know, and they say, do you know? And no, of course I don't know that person. But yeah, it really does make a massive difference, because not everyone will give someone a compliment like that, and it will make their day, make them feel great.
Yeah, and in terms of relationships and sexual relationships, just saying to your partner, you're looking good today, or I love your hair, or whatever, it starts that feeling going, so that they start to feel good. When we give somebody a compliment, we feel good about the kindness that we've shown them, and they feel good because we've done it. So it just helps to start building the intimacy and the trust around that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other big thing about this is communication, isn't it? So they might not realize what's going on with themselves, but they have to tell their partner, because he's thinking that she doesn't love them anymore, doesn't. And of course, it's not that at all.
No.
So that's the other really important thing, is to sit down. And obviously, it's a really difficult subject for many women to discuss, and men as well. And so you know, the important thing is to sit them down in an area where, you know, it's not just a fleeting conversation when they're cooking or something like that, or just watching, you know, it's take them somewhere in a space where they don't get distracted, and actually say, look, I'm going to talk to you about something which is really difficult for me to talk about, and I'd like to, you know, talk to you about it, and just listen to me first of all, and I'd like us to talk about it. And I think if women and men, if men's watching or listening rather, because it's podcast, isn't it? If they talk like that, it would make such a difference to people's relationships, wouldn't it, Pat?
Absolutely. We have to be able to talk with each other, to communicate. I mean, we communicate with our words, we communicate with our actions, just the way we look and we move. And it's sort of bringing our awareness to it, whether we're subconsciously pushing somebody away. I mean, even just like doing this with the hands, like, oh yeah, let's talk about this later. All of that is saying, I don't want to talk about this. Whereas if it's like, can we talk about this later? You know, palms up, open, that's very different.
Body
so
language.
We have to really think about what we're saying and how we're saying it as well.
Really important. Okay, so Pat, that's all the things, the horrible things. What is it that we can do to naturally, or even, you know, at the doctor, that can help us with this, to get past this time? Because it does go past, it does eventually go, but yeah.
And if you want to be having sex in your 60s and 70s, make sure you're having it in your 40s and 50s. It's not going to happen by a magic wand, or, you know, perhaps your partner does have a magic wand later in life. You've got to be regularly engaging in your relationship. So if we go back to medically, I mentioned hormone replacement therapy. Not for everybody, not everybody wants to take it. But there are also what are called topical hormones. Now, topical hormone treatments are where you apply the hormone directly to the area that's affected. So if you've got vaginal dryness that's being caused by lack of hormones, you can buy estrogen creams. Well, I say buy. Up until now, they've been on prescription. So you'd have to talk to your doctor or the practice nurse about it. And you can get vaginal rings that have estrogen in them. You can get pessaries, you can get vaginal creams that you can apply topically to that area. That doesn't mean you're on hormone replacement therapy. It's very low levels of the hormone. It's not raising the hormone generally in your system. It's just raising it in the area that's affected. So that can be a way to overcome vaginal dryness. But there are lots of things that we can do with our diet. And I think that is really important. I think I'd like to kind of start there, because what we're eating is really important to our, so we have biome in our vagina. That might sound awful, but we do have like communities of bacteria that live in our vagina, and it's a good thing. They're keeping it in balance. And as we head into menopause, that balance can start to go off. And we have actually an acidity, a certain acidity in our vagina. So think about it as soil that you're planting in. You know, the soil in the garden, you can get pH tests done to see if it's acidic or whether it's alkaline. Oh, wow. We're not testing our vaginas, but we do know that it's important to keep that acidic balance there. And so it's about what we're eating and what we're using around our vagina becomes really important. So the first rule of thumb is, if you wouldn't put it in your mouth, don't put it in your vagina. Because, you know, things that are chemical, things that have lots of scents in them, things that if you read it on the list of ingredients, it's got stuff with chemical names in it. If you don't know what it is, why are you applying it to this really delicate area of your body?
It really is delicate, isn't it?
It really is delicate, and it gets more delicate at this stage as the skin is thinning and drying. We've got to take more care of it. So the sort of foods we should be eating, the oily fish, the mackerel, the salmon, because we need the omega-3 oils to help us to stay nice and juicy. There are things called phytoestrogens. They're plant estrogens, and they help to supplement the estrogens in our body. And it's things like chickpeas, lentils, the fermented soyas like miso, tempeh, tofu. One of the things that is your real friend at menopause is linseeds or flax seeds. They've got lots of omega-3 in them. They've got phytoestrogens, plant estrogens. They've got lots of fiber in them. So get out there, get your linseeds, sprinkle them on your breakfast cereal or in your smoothies or in your baking, whatever. They are real friends. Any probiotic rich foods, so any fermented foods, are helpful for your gut biome, and in turn that helps your vaginal biome. Ginger, I love ginger. I love fresh ginger. I love fresh ginger covered in chocolate as well, but that's another thing. But ginger is very good, very antibacterial, so can be really helpful. Avocados, because of the oils that are in them. Green tea, very antioxidant. I drink a matcha latte every morning. That's how middle class I am. But matcha is very good for its antioxidants, even though it's got caffeine in it, really good for your system. Garlic, as you know, very antibacterial. Fresh fruit and vegetables, really important as well. I mean, generally, the thinking now is that a Mediterranean style diet is very good for our health at menopause. So we're really talking about low levels of carbohydrate, because carbohydrate converts into sugars, and
that's not rice or potatoes, pasta.
Yeah, if you're going to eat those, then eat whole food versions of them, but honestly, only small amounts of carbohydrate. Our bodies need some carbohydrate, but the complex carbohydrates are better. You just don't want to eat too much of it, because your body has trouble actually digesting and converting it.
And then it goes to sugar anyway, doesn't it?
And it goes to sugar and it gets stored, and then you wonder why you're building up fat around your waist. So low carbohydrate, lean protein, lots of vegetables, some fruit, making sure you're getting your omega-3s and staying well hydrated. We really need to be well hydrated for our body function and for our brain function. And if you're thinking of food supplements, because sometimes what we're eating just doesn't give us enough of what we need. Again, back to omega-3 oils, because they help to control inflammation. So that inflammation around the joints that makes the aches and pains, having omega-3 helps to lubricate the body and control the inflation. If only.
Well, that as well.
Inflammation.
What about eggs and oysters? Because that's bodily, as in it helps to, supplement the vagina, and but would you say that, I mean, I personally don't like oysters, but they say it's a very good aphrodisiac, and they also say a little bit of wine, obviously not a lot, but a little bit of wine, red wine I'm talking about.
Yeah, so several questions there. So eggs can be really helpful. Some foods, because just as our reproductive hormones are reducing, other hormones are reducing as well. So we're getting less testosterone. Women have testosterone and the levels of it start to decrease. And some foods help you with the testosterone, and certainly oysters are one of the things that helps. I don't like oysters.
No, I don't.
I just
I've tried, I've tried. It's just like drinking like snot with seawater.
That's what I think. So yeah, I'm not really bothered with that. Eggs can be helpful. What was the other thing you said? I lost it.
Oh, wine, red wine.
So we have to be really careful with red wine. There are really good ingredients in red wine. I can't remember the name of the chemical that's in it, but honestly, to get anything useful from it, you'd have to drink about a gallon, and then you'd be flat on your back and not in a good way. And you're probably having hot flushes. And so the wine industry tends to say, oh, there's lots of good stuff in red wine. There is, but you'd have to drink it in huge quantities. You can get it from other things. So the red fruit, the berries, the beetroots, the things that have got beta carotene in them can be really helpful. So, think about the redder, oranger vegetables can be really good. Think about, if you need to take a probiotic to help you with your gut health. And of course, women can get, and this is another thing that would put you off sex, you can get urinary tract infections because the skin is more delicate. So you might get cystitis or yeast infections. So probiotics can help with that.
I was getting BV quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, drinking cranberries, eating cranberry juice, drinking cranberry juice, eating cranberries, that can help the wall of the vagina as well. And things to avoid, foods that have got yeasts in them. So bread, anything that's got yeast is not going to be helpful. We've already talked about the sugars, reducing the sugars. The alcohol is honestly not your friend. It is stressing your system out. You might think, oh, but I like my cheeky glass of wine. Well, just watch what happens when you drink it, whether you start to get more symptoms. Just really raising your awareness. Yeah. And the highly processed foods, they're not helping your gut. And if it's not helping your gut, it's not helping your vagina. No. So it's a lot to do there around what we're eating.
It really will. If what I would say to women, if they have got a diet where it's a bit, they're having a lot of trans fats, and they're having a lot of alcohol, and they're having a lot of sugar, honestly, try a month without. I remember I did that. I had to do it for something else once, and it was amazing. I was sleeping better. My cheeks were a bit more rosy. I looked more alive. I had more energy. I don't know, because my body was well rested. My body had my actual body was working. My muscles were working better. And honestly, and a bit of exercise as well. If women aren't doing exercise, that's another thing. Even just walking for half an hour a day will make a massive difference.
So there's a difference in how you exercise at menopause as well. So long periods of cardiovascular exercise, jogging, running, rowing, is not good for you at this stage of life, because it raises the levels of cortisol in your system. Raising the levels of cortisol inflames your body, it inflames your joints. So don't start half marathon running at this stage of life. What you want is a mixture. So yes, the walking, really good for you. Sex is good for you, it's good exercise. But also thinking about high intensity interval training, resistance training, so weightlifting, not massive weights, you know,
No,
like
of course.
kettlebells or something like that.
Yeah.
Stretching exercises, so yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, the things that give your body an opportunity to stretch and exercise that maintain your muscle strength, really important. So yeah, think about your exercise slightly differently. A lot of women go, oh, I haven't got time. Make the time, you know, even if you can just do 10 minutes a day, do the 10 minutes a day, park the car a bit further from the office and walk a bit further, walk further around the supermarket, whatever you do, just instead of thinking, oh, I've forgotten something, I've got to go back upstairs, think, oh, I've got an opportunity to walk up and down the stairs again.
It's the messages again. It's the messages again that you give yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It really is.
Here I go,
So,
being well hydrated again.
I've got mine here. I've got my water in this thing here. I had some before actually starting, but I do actually drink. I used to get a lot of cystitis when I was in my early 30s, and the doctor said, look, the only thing you have to do is drink water. And so that's what I've been doing for 20 years. Pint before I go to bed, about 3 pints or 4 pints in the day, and another pint before I go to bed. Although recently I've been doing a bit less than that because I didn't want to get up in the night. I needed to sleep because I was having trouble. But yeah, it makes a massive difference to your skin as well when you drink a lot. People say to me, because you know I'm 57 years old, and people say to me, well, what is it? I think it's the exercise and the food and the water, you know.
It's the whole package though. It's the mindset, it's the feeling young, you know, it is. You've got to think about it holistically, because otherwise you're just missing a trick. You know, if you don't get your head around it, I guess it starts with getting your head round, do you know, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm going to live my life the way I want to, and I'm going to look after myself. Once you love yourself enough to do that, then you'll do the things around the food, the exercise, the mind. You know, it's all part of the package. Do we want to talk about lubricants and moisturizers?
I think we should. I think our listeners will really want to know about that now that we've gotten this far.
If they haven't turned off by now, they want to know, but what else could I be doing? So think about lubricants and moisturizers. Moisturizers, because you can get, if that skin gets dry, it can get sore. It can be sore just sitting down or going to the loo. So moisturizers just help to keep it nice and moist and not getting dried out. So look at natural moisturizers, look at the ingredients and see what you can find. You can find ones that have got bamboo in them, or aloe vera, or avocado oil or coconut oil. You know, all of these natural oils can, so really look at moisturizers, vaginal moisturizers, not just something you'd slap on your face, although really think about what you're putting on your face as well.
Presumably you can buy that in places like Holland and Barrett then, in health shops as well as
places like Revital, and also you can get them in chemists as well. I think some women feel embarrassed about it. Of course, now you could just go on Amazon and find something that you think is suitable. And then if you're looking for a lubricant to use during sex, whether you're having sex with a toy or sex on your own or sex with a partner, having a lubricant can be really helpful, because you might just be slower at producing your own vaginal lubricants. And again, looking for natural products. There is, this one always makes me laugh, they don't pay me anything for saying it. There is an aloe vera one called Aloe Cadabra. I just love the name of it.
That sounds good, because you see, the ones I've tried, you know, I've tried loads of different lubricants, and the trouble is they're really sticky and horrible. You know, I hate it. And luckily for me, I'm still very lubricated. It's almost like Niagara Falls, but only when I feel like it. So I have to get, you know, but but before now, it has been dry when I've not. You know, I'm really lucky. My husband doesn't really ask me for any. He's 44, and he doesn't really think about it. So for me, I'm actually quite lucky. But in the past, when they've wanted it and I've not, you know, getting that lubricant, actually I've used it for toys as well, but it just makes everything so sticky.
Well, here's the thing with toys, you have to be a bit more careful, because some oils can break down the surface of toys, and if you're using condoms, they can break down condoms as well. Coconut oil is a problem with that. If you're using
Ah,
toys or you're using condoms, don't use coconut oil as a lubricant or a
do
moisturizer,
you
because
believe it?
it
That's
will break it
natural.
down. Yeah. Well, you've got to think of the acidity that's naturally in these things. So yeah, we do have to be careful. If you don't want to go out and buy something, you can use something like egg whites. Egg white, the
Ah,
consistency of it is very similar
it
to our
is.
natural lubricant, and so it might get a bit sticky. I'm not sure if you get really frothy if you're whipping up the egg white.
Lemon meringue down there with all the friction, be like, oh my god, we're making lemon meringue. Oh my god, that's hilarious. It just won't be very sweet, that's all, but still probably very tasty.
Well, I'm not going there, but
Not
anyway.
for me, but for him.
So, you don't have to go out and buy something, and egg whites would be very natural. You could use something like natural yogurt. If you're using a good natural yogurt, that would be helpful. It's fine, and experiment with it. You might not get it right first time, so you might find that some lubricants get very thin very quickly. So you start off and it's going well, and the next minute the lubrication's gone, and you've got to reapply. And some will be thinner than others, and
Yeah,
some
maybe
will
get the
suit you more.
extra thick. The extra thick yogurt, the Greek yogurt.
I think it's got other things in it, so
Yeah,
I think we want to avoid Greek yogurt because I
but
think it's got cream in it
organic
as
probably,
well.
eh?
Just
Organic, right?
organic, natural, or
Yeah.
a probiotic yogurt will be better. So there's lots of things that you can use that will help that area and help it to stay lubricated, so that it's all a lot more fun and easier. But don't let it get sore and dry. Oh, we've frozen. So I don't know if anybody can still see me, whether it's Caroline that's gone offline or.
If you want to contact, hi Pat.
Hi,
Oh
we
my,
we disappeared for a moment there.
yeah. Oh my god, did you actually log back in again or something?
No, I was just
No.
here. I was just here. So
Oh, fabulous. Okay, fabulous. So, okay. So I just want to touch because we're getting close to the end of our hour here. I wanted to touch on essential oils. Are there any essential oils? I know patchouli can bring back that natural pheromone smell, but is there anything else that you would recommend?
So ylang ylang has always been quite popular for helping with the libido. With natural oils, be careful. Always sniff them first. Make sure you're not allergic to them. Put them in a carrier oil. Don't apply them directly to your skin. Lavender oil can be really good if you just want to cool down a bit. And geranium is very good for balancing the hormones. So it depends what you want to get from it, but always be careful with them. Make sure your partner isn't allergic to them as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Never even thought about that one. Brilliant. And the other thing I just wanted to touch on is like how to go about together as a couple to get back to like things like date nights and we've said before that the best aphrodisiac is actually getting ready to go out, and that's like being a teenager again. Like when you're seeing someone for the first time, it's like getting all excited. That is the best aphrodisiac for meeting your husband, and actually going separate to a restaurant so you see that person, because normally we always go in together, don't we? And you don't look at your partner like, but when you go in separately, you'll be able to see them walking and think, oh, looking at that person, your husband, your partner, just like everybody else is, and thinking, oh, you're a bit all right. It really does make a difference, doesn't it?
It does. And, we started out by talking about communication and conversation, paying compliments, being kind to each other. It's very sexy to be kind to somebody, doing the little things for them. And I don't know if you've come across the 5 love
Oh, yes,
languages.
yes. Makes such a difference.
Understanding how your partner experiences love, whether it is through the words that you say to them or the little touches that you give them, or little gifts. I'm not saying, oh, come in with a box of chocolates and a bunch of flowers. It might just be, you know, they wanted a book, or they wanted, you know, something to wear, and you just get them something little, and it just kind of primes the pumps for that intimacy and that caring. So yeah, think about your partner, think about what you want, what they want. Being able to talk about it is what
They've probably
helps the whole
never asked that
process.
before. They probably never asked that before, have they, Pat? I
No.
know I asked my husband, said to him, how do you feel love? How do you feel that I love you? And he goes, touch. Touch
Yeah.
is what really, you know, it's not like I love you. It's not when it's not when I do something for him. It's not if I buy him something. That for him is the bit, for me, it's a bit of everything actually. But yeah. And it's worth finding out, what is it your partner, how does your partner feel love? What is it?
Yeah.
And what was it? How did you say it? I say, how do you feel love? And you said,
How they experience
that's
love.
it, experience love. Yeah, that's it.
So
Yeah,
I know
brilliant.
that my husband, it's acts of service, which sounds
Ah,
awful, but my husband knows he's loved when I take him his cup of tea in the
yeah,
morning.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I
Yeah,
say
yeah.
to him during the day, I come out my office because I work from home, and I say to him, drink a cup of tea, anything I can get you. He knows he's loved. And if
Yeah.
I've gone away on a business trip, when I get back, he knows I'm back when his cup of tea appears.
Oh, that's
And
love,
it's just
isn't it?
that. And we had a friend staying here 2 weekends ago, and she said, you guys are so solid. She said, it's just in the little things that you do for each other. And she said, you don't call anybody else darling. You're not a darling person. But she said, it's so natural when you said to your husband, drink a cup of tea, darling. And
It's
she said it was
exactly what
so
I do.
natural and so kind. And then he did something kind for you. And she said, it's just so obvious.
Lovely, isn't it? It's beautiful. And the thing is that just picking up on something you just said about talking with love and from the heart.
Yes.
You know, like we've all got childhood trauma that comes into relationships. That's why a lot of relationships don't work out, because they've got their trauma and the person says something that's triggered their trauma. The person's got no idea they've done that. Then of course they say something that triggers it, and it just becomes one great big mess, and they're all split up. And I always say, if you just talk from love and from the heart, and
Mm,
knowing that person doesn't really mean it. Okay, so they don't mean it, as in it's not their fault, but they have to take responsibility. But the
yeah.
fact is that if you talk from love and the heart, then it's not going to get bad, is it? And at the end of the day, you're a loving couple. Why would you say horrible words to each other anyway? So
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I know. He says, my husband says to me, "Would you like a cup of coffee?" We only say chérie, mon chéri to each other. He's mon chéri, and I'm his ma chérie. And that's it. I don't ever call him by his name except when I'm talking about him to someone else. No, not nasty when I say about I'm
Yeah.
talking about him. So listen, thank you so much, Pat.
It's
It's
been
lovely
such
to have you
fun.
here. Oh, it has. And you know what? I know that our listeners will really appreciate every single word that you've said. So listen, how can people contact you?
So it's really easy. I have a patduckworth.com website, and there is a contact part on that. If you are looking for more help for your menopause and you just want to dip your toe in the water, my book, Hot Women, Cool Solutions, you can find it on Amazon, and you'll find lots of tips in there. But if you just want to have a 30-minute chat with me, come to patduckworth.com.
Great. Thank you, Pat. And listen, everyone, just go and see Pat because she's amazing. Now, what I'd like to ask you, one more last question for you is if you were able to meet the young 18-year-old you again, what would you advise?
I'd give her a big old hug and say, keep going, you're doing brilliantly, because the woman I am today is all the actions my 18-year-old self took, and
Wow.
every age since then. I've got so much respect for what my younger selves did that have allowed me to do what I do today. So I would like kiss my younger self's feet and say, keep going, you're doing brilliantly, I love you.
Oh, that's lovely advice. I really love that. Okay, so there you are, folks. Have fabulous conversation there. I love Pat. We'll have to bring you back another time for the next audience that we have. Have you got any freebies, by the way? Is it the
Well,
free call?
yeah, if they go to hotwomencoolsolutions.com, you'll see there's a whole load of freebies on the right-hand side of the homepage. There's lots of relaxations, hypnotic recordings, things to help with sleep, etc. Go grab them.
And repeat that again for ladies that didn't catch that.
It's hotwomencoolsolutions.com. It's the name of the book. It's the book website.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm on TikTok. It's at Caroline Sexplosion. So I hope you enjoyed listening this week. I will see you all next month. Take care, and to your success, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.